Are you a recent MBC graduate who feels extremely frustrated because you can't get your foot in the door? Because it seems like no one is willing to give you an opportunity? Stay tuned. This is the RCM Roundup you don't want to miss. Hey everyone, what's up? Tiffany Robinson here from Beyond RCM Revenue Cycle Management here in the state of New York. Thanking you for joining us for our RCM Roundup. I'm so excited to get into today's Roundup because I have some really cool pro tips for my newbies. And as always, we are going to address some of the comments that have come in on our previous videos that we have put up. If this is your first time checking out the channel, I want to welcome you. Beyond RCM is a YouTube channel that is made for newbies in the field of medical billing and coding. We provide tips, best practices, and guidance for individuals who are entering the field of medical billing and coding. And as I always state in previous videos, this is truly a passion project for me. I enjoy being able to help provide tips, guidance, and nuggets that I've learned along the way to help individuals who are entering this field into their career journey. So if this is something that you're interested in, and this is your first time checking out the channel, I encourage you to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. So for today's pro tip, I want to give some guidance to my newbies who are starting out their job hunt. And I first and foremost want to just offer you all some encouragement. I know how frustrating it can be when you are starting out in this field, trying to get your foot in the door. Oftentimes it's difficult for you to get your start because many employers want you to have that dreaded word called experience. Now, I know this because I started out in this field over 25 years ago, and I ran into the same problem. A lot of organizations didn't want to give me a chance because I didn't have enough experience. I remember when I started out being on dozens of job interviews. Some job interviews I felt that I completely nailed it. Some I felt like I didn't do great. All of them frustrated me because I kept running into the same feedback. We really like you, but we want someone with some more experience. And if you are a new MBC and you are finding that you are getting no's because of this, I want to give you a couple of pro tips that will hopefully help you navigate this initial phase. I know there might be someone watching this video right now that is very frustrated. You've gone to school, you did well, you got your certification, but you're not getting a job. And you're probably contemplating, should I even stay in this field? I want to encourage you. Yes, you should absolutely stay in this field. I've been there. I completely understand it. I'm not talking from a place of someone who doesn't know what it's like to feel like no one is ever going to give you your start. I too hit that crossroads early on in my career, and I'm so grateful that I didn't throw in the towel. Because once I got my first opportunity, I took the ball and ran with it, and I haven't looked back since. And I believe that if you hang in there too, and you think of ways to potentially be creative and think outside of the box in order to get your foot in the door, you will have the same result as well. So the first career path that I want to promote is, and I know it's not an option for everyone, but hear me out, is internships. I am a big fan and proponent of internships. If you've listened to some of my earlier videos when we first started this channel, I actually got my start through an internship. I interned at a local hospital in Brooklyn. Shout out to Brooklyn. And eventually that hospital ended up hiring me. I didn't start out seeking to start as an intern. I was actually looking for a job. But what was unique to my situation was that I was 6 months pregnant when I was job hunting. And And no one wanted to hire me. I mean, no one wanted to hire someone 6 months pregnant. I don't know how else to say it, but that was the hurdle that I encountered in addition to not having experience. So instead of just staying home and kind of doing nothing and waiting for my son to be born, I said, you know what? I'm going to see if I can go do an internship at a local hospital. And I was able to get into a local hospital. I was able to do an internship for 3 months. I literally interned up until I think the week I was due to have my son. And luckily, once I came off of maternity leave, I was able to get into that hospital for my first job. So I swear by internships. I think that if you are someone who's working and you can't afford to do a 4 or 5 or even 3 day a week internship, you might want to consider interning once a week. Find an organization that is very heavily involved in billing, maybe a billing service, a billing company, and see if you can volunteer at least 1 day a week to get your foot in the door, to get exposure to the field that you're entering, and most importantly, to get a job on your resume where you can demonstrate that you were exposed to the field. So I think internships are the move, they're the wave, and I'm here today because of an internship in my career. The other position that I would like newbies to consider is a collections position. So going into a practice or a medical organization and working in their collections department. So collections is basically the process by which once you submit your bills to the insurance company, collectors work on claims that are either denied or claims where there are no status or claims where they're pended for different reasons. So different reasons could be maybe coordination of benefits or medical records. But it is the job of the collector to basically look at what is causing this claim not to be paid and to push this claim through, resolve whatever issue is happening with the claim so that the end result is that the claim gets paid. And there's a really big demand for collectors because insurance companies understand how much money they can save annually just by denying claims, because many carriers have filing limits. And if you haven't watched my previous video, I did a whole video where I explained insurance timely filing limits. So I encourage you to check it out. I'm going to pop it up in the video section here. But insurance companies set filing limits. And when medical practices do not follow up on their claims or get the requested information back out to the insurance company within that time period, the insurance company reserves the right to deny your claim for something called late filing. So it becomes very advantageous to insurance companies to issue denials that probably are not even justified. I can't tell you as a biller how many issues I encountered in terms of denials where I received tons of rejections for an issue that wasn't even a valid issue to begin with, but I had to make sure that the collectors and myself stayed on top of that issue until it got resolved, because failure to do that in a timely manner would ultimately result in the organization forfeiting its right to payment. So medical practices, especially larger practices, understand the advantage of having a strong collections team. And many employers in healthcare will actually consider individuals who do not necessarily have a lot of experience to recruit them to their collections team, provided that once that individual is onboarded, that they take the ball and run with it when giving an opportunity. So being a collection specialist is a great way to get your foot in the door. It'll expose you to understanding insurance companies. It will expose you to understanding their criteria for medical necessity for different services. You'll get an understanding of the ICD-10 and CPT codes being performed in the practice. It's a great place to start and get your feet wet. Two other areas that I think is really great, and again, you will see these departments in larger organizations, not so much in smaller private practices, because usually in smaller private practices, one person kind of has to do the job of everything. But if you're looking in more of a larger organization, a insurance verification or prior authorization specialist is also a great place to get your start. So an insurance verification specialist is basically someone that verifies, it's pretty much self-explanatory. It's someone who verifies the coverage of patients who are scheduled to come in, making sure that these patients have active coverage, making sure that they are covered for the services that they are coming in for. And many larger organizations do this because obviously they don't want to be putting a bunch of patients on the schedule who don't have valid insurance. So that's another great area to get your start. And even to go a step further, if you work in a prior authorization department, like a collections department, you will be medical billing and coding adjacent, because oftentimes in order to obtain prior authorization, you need to make sure the service is medically necessary. You need to understand the type of service that's being performed, the CPT code, the ICD-10 codes. Some companies have, certain criterias that you have to show you fulfilled before you can even apply for the prior authorization. So working as a prior authorization agent also gives you an opportunity to get your feet in the door and be exposed to some of the components that are an integral part of medical billing or medical coding. So those are three great areas for you to look at if you haven't considered, in addition to internships. But with all of these recommendations, one thing I want to say is very crucial. When you are taking a position that is not exactly the position that you want, but it is the position that will help you get your feet in the door, it becomes very important to know when to pivot, when you've acquired everything that you needed to acquire in that position, and it's time to transition onto something next. Now, the thing I want to caution about pivoting is, I think that when you are starting out, at minimum, you should at least be at your first position for at least a year, right? At least a year to get your feet wet, to get exposure, but to also show employers that you're capable of staying in a place of employment for a year. As someone who interviews individuals for positions, I am always side-eyeing resumes where someone is playing hopscotch on their resume. They're there for 6 months, they're here for a year, they're there for 3 months, they're here for 8 months. To me, that's a red flag. So it is important that when you're starting out, whatever position you get to get your feet in the door, have in your mind that you're going to tough it out for at least a year. But once you feel that you've acquired all the knowledge that you've acquired, once you feel like, there is no opportunity for me to be moved, upwards in this company, then it's very important to know when to pivot, because I've also seen individuals get very comfortable and stuck because they were able to land the job. They feel comfortable, although it's not exactly what they wanted to do. They have a fear of taking the leap. Don't ever be afraid to take the leap when it comes to your career. So again, internships is a great way to get your foot in the door. Collections specialist is a great way. And even an insurance or prior authorization specialist are great ways for you to get your feet in the door, and then eventually be able to parlay that into your actual position. But remember, you want to show stability, but you also want to balance that fine line of being able to show stability, but also knowing when to pivot. So that is the pro tip for my newbies, because like I always say, I got love for the newbies. So I'm going to go into our comment section. And we get really great comments on all of our previous videos. I'm always really humbled when I see individuals going back and looking at videos that we put out over a year ago and commenting on it, and just showing how relevant these topics are. So I just want to thank everyone that continues to send their comments, put up their comments. I truly appreciate it. We get them all, and I do try to respond to them in a timely manner. So the first comment came in from @AdvancedNursesEdConsultant, and @AdvancedNursesEdConsultant commented on the video that I put out earlier this year called Certified. And in that video, I was ecstatic over finally passing my CDEO certification exam. So at Advanced Nurses Ed Consultant wrote, I just earned my CDIP last month. Congratulations. That is so cool. And for those of you who don't know, CDIP is pretty much the clinical documentation certification through AHIMA. And so she wrote, I just earned my CDIP last month after failing the first time in 2019. I feel your excitement. I'm so excited for you. And as I was reading your question, I have a question that I want to ask you. My question to you is, after you failed in 2019, did you continue to study on a consistent basis for the CDIP, or did you take a break and, decided, in a certain time frame recently, look, I'm going to try to take this test again, and you buckled down and crammed after taking a break? The reason I asked this question is when I failed my CDEO, there were individuals that was pushing me to go back and take it right away. But I was very discouraged and kind of in the doldrums. And, I had put so much time and effort into preparing for it that when I failed, I was devastated. I'm not even going to lie. So I was not inclined to go sign back up for it right away. In fact, when I passed, my voucher was actually scheduled to expire the next day. And the only reason I took it was I was not going to forfeit an exam I already paid for. And obviously I prepared leading up to that, but ultimately I took it the 11th hour. So there are some individuals that will say you should go back and take it right away while everything is still fresh in your mind. Most people probably don't, because they get frustrated, and oftentimes you spend so much time preparing. So I'd like to know, with the failing of the exam in 2019 and then passing, whoop, whoop, in 2023, did you take a break? How long did you take a break? And then how long did you cram before you took it again and passed in 2023? I would love to get your feedback on that. But thank you so much, and congratulations on earning your CDIP certification. Our next question comes from El Preciado 94. I just kind of felt like saying that with an accent. I don't even know if that's how you're supposed to say it, but I felt inspired. And El wrote, she commented on our video, our first video, Certification Matters. And she wrote, wow, I really enjoyed this video. Do you think that age 47 is too late to want to learn medical billing and coding? Elle, you already know my answer to this question, because I answered this question in a previous video when I think another viewer wrote that they were 39 and they wanted to know if they were too old. Of course, you're not too old, Elle, to get into the field of medical billing and coding. 47, for the word 47 and too old should only be used in, like, if you want to do extreme sports, like, you know what I'm saying? Like if you're like trying to be like Tony Hawk or one of those people and you're 47, I think in that context, the question of too old is applicable. When it comes to a profession like medical billing and coding, of course you're not too old at 47 to enter into this field. I think it would be amazing, and I don't think age should be a deciding factor in your decision-making process at all. I will tell you, as someone who started out in this field, I started out in this field when I was 17. And when I started out in this field, I found it very hard to get the respect of my colleagues, because I was always looked at. In my first job, my boss actually called me little girl. I know to her, it was like a term of endearment, but it irritated me so much because I wanted to be respected as a employee, and I didn't want to be a little girl. But as someone who came into this field very young and now I'm a little bit older, I will tell you that there's a certain value that, I don't want to say older, but individuals in our age group, there's a certain value that you bring to the workforce that many younger individuals do not have yet by virtue of life experience. What do I mean by that? I work with many different age groups. I work with Gen Zs, I work with millennials like myself, I work with Gen X, I work with boomers, and I enjoy working with younger individuals because they are so tech savvy and they force you to get out of your comfort zone. So where I might be comfortable working a certain way, and I see them doing something, differently and more efficient, it pushes me to kind of say, okay, Tiffany, you can do that. So I enjoy the fact that they are very up on technology, and there are things that they push me to step out of my comfort zone and do. With that being said, there's a certain level of maturity, there's a certain level of understanding and life experience and work experience that I can offer to individuals that are younger than I am, that if they if they are sponges like I was at their age, they'll soak it up and it will help them be 10 times a better leader 10 years from now, from how old they are now. There's a certain value you bring as an individual who is older. There's a certain level of wisdom. There's a certain level of understanding. There's a certain level of being able to articulate yourself that the workforce is in desperate need of. So, yeah, you may feel a little outdated maybe with the technology, and you hear so many things about AI and how AI is changing the landscape of healthcare. But I would encourage you to not allow that to scare you. Let that be your motivator. Let that be something that drives you into this field, because in addition to learning new things, there's a level of value that you're going to be able to bring to younger individuals and even older individuals, because we're all always learning from each other, right? There's going to be a level of value that you're going to add to that organization. So don't discount the value that you can bring at 47 into this field. So you know my answer. No, you not to OL. Go do your certification and report back so we can shout you out. Go get them, L. You got this. And that's it, guys. That's it. Thank you so much, as usual, per usual, for hanging out with me on another RCM Roundup. I do so much enjoy putting this information out for my newbies, and I most enjoy getting the wonderful feedback that we continue to get from everyone. As stated before, if you haven't done so already, please do not forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. If there is a question you would like to have us answer or a comment, please always feel free to drop us a comment in the video notes, and I will be sure to read them in subsequent RCM roundups. Thank you so much for taking the time to hang out with me today. I wish you all the best. Tiffany Robinson signing off. Bye-bye.